Now that we know how to find the average, let's look at how to find the standard deviation of a probability model. So remember that we have already found the center of our probability model for have a heart, and now I want to find the spread. So I know that I can expect to lose $1.35 each time, but I want to know how spread out that is. And that's based on the variance and standard deviation. And so we've talked about standard deviation and variance and how they're related. The variance of x, which is sigma squared, is equal, if I took the square root of sigma squared, obviously I just get sigma, and sigma is the standard deviation. So the square root of variance is equal to the standard deviation. Now again, I'm going to take you through how to find the standard deviation by hand, but really we're just going to utilize StatCrunch to do this for us. But again, just so you have the basis of knowledge, here's how we would do it. We're going to take each value. The x represents the outcome, so that would be the 95 or the 5 or the 0 or the -5. And I'm going to subtract my average, which remember we found that to be -1.35. And I'm going to do that for each of the x's, and then I'm going to square those because that makes them all positive, and multiply them by their probability and add them all together. And once I've done that, that's the variance, and then I'm just going to take the square root of the variance to find the standard deviation. Obviously, all of that makes a lot more sense when I'm actually looking at my values. So remember, these were my outcomes, 95, 5, 0, and -5. And what I've done here to get this 96.35, I took x, which was 95 for this first column, and I subtracted negative $1.35, which means I actually added $1.35 to get 96.35. That's where that number came from. Then I squared it, and again that makes it positive. And then I multiplied it by the probability. So I should have probably had another column here. This probability for the first one was 1 out of 52, so that's what I multiplied by to get this number. For the second option was any other ace, so that was the 3 out of 52, and this was the 12 out of 52, and this was the 36 out of 52. And really what I was doing is taking this number times this number, which is the probability, to get this answer. And again, I did that over and over, and I added all of those up, and that gave me my variance. So my variance was 190.5, and then I just take the square root of the variance, the square root of the variance, and that gives me my standard deviation of 13.8. Again, I don't like to do this by hand because it's so much easier in StatCrunch. But again, what is it that I just found? Well, I found essentially the spread, or how spread out our outcomes will be. So what I looked at is I knew that my standard deviation I just found is 1380, and I was expecting -1.35. So remember back when we looked at models and we said, okay, the mean would be here, and this is the +1 standard deviation, and this was mean plus 2 standard deviations, and this was the mean plus 3 standard deviations, etc. That's exactly what I could do here. I could put the -135 in the middle, and I could go one to the right, which would be 1245, and I could go one to the left, which could be -15.15, and I could go even one more. But what I've found is, again, 68% of the time I'm going to expect a value between these two values. So 68% of the time I'm either going to lose $15.15 or win $12.45.